All right, let's see one more Dugin.
Wait, law?
Oh shit! I'm so sorry. Why did it not come through with this? Oh, I need to replace the alert box. Fuck, I'm sorry. Shit. If I remove it, then... Oh no, this might fuck everything up. Please still be here. Okay, good. Copy. I'm so sorry. I need to copy the alert box over. I forgot that. Okay, now it's there. Thank you, RevDork, for the tier 2 sub. I'm sorry, I fucked up your sub. Oh no, I feel so bad. But there we go. It's there. I'll play it anyway for you, right? There you go.
Wait, law?
There we go.
What are you, a fucking liberal?
Nice. All right. Just pretend that's your name.
Everything is relative, and we in Russia, we could use postmodernity in order to explain to the West that if
Oh no. Oh God.
any truth is relative, so we have our special Russian truth that you need to accept as something that maybe is not your truth.
Even if it's not true.
But if the truth is relative,
That's the fucking golden question right there. Oh, not that one again. Oh God.
doesn't mean that the truth doesn't exist. That means that absolute truth, one for all, doesn't exist.
Let's take an example. If you watch Russian television today, you'd think that Russia and America were about to go to war.
Yes, but the same if we are examining, if we are reading American press.
He's saying we use postmodernism though, like the point of relativism. Yeah.
We have the same impression.
Not really. I've just come back from America. You don't really get that impression. Do you think this is genuinely the case?
No, I think that now the situation is in Syria, for example, United States continuing to be unipolar or continuing to consider itself as unipolar.
Why are people defending NATO expanding? Besides Ukraine, there is no need to join NATO. Yeah, there is. The fact that Russia's border with NATO has just expanded, like, well, not with Sweden, but I guess it's expanded a bit because Sweden goes to fucking that bit in Europe. Yeah, like if you've got an aggressor going into anywhere, I think it probably is valuable to let them know, like, yeah, this worldview that you have, like, you can't keep trying to impose it on the rest of the world, and we're going to make it very clear that you can. Because that's what they want. They want the multipolarity where they're able to fuck about with other, which is basically code for we're allowed to fuck about with other nations, regardless of what they want.
Power, it says no more asset. And Atlanticist powers of the Western Europe repeats after Washington. We doesn't want any more asset, but Putin, other civilization says stop. Let have asset, and after that there is our nuclear and military power behind asset. So, and that is serious. If you are boss, you could not let the other decide, if you really is a boss, decide what to do in your realm of responsibility. It is conflict. And Russia says, no, you are not boss. You are not anymore boss. That's very serious. It is, if we insist on multipolarity, and if behind us there is nuclear weapon and the iron will to defend, for example, in the little case of Assad, defend Assad. Assad is principally not because we have so much interest there. That is the question of who rules the world. That is the problem. So that's possible war. Only war could...
They defended Assad just to reinforce the idea of like multipolarity? Is that kind of what he's saying there?
Decide what to do in your realm of responsibility. It is conflict. And Russia says, no, you are not boss. You are not anymore boss. That's very serious. It is, if we insist on multiple.
Does Russia really just get involved in other countries as a kind of contrarian move? Are they supporting General Haftar now just because? Well, I guess they supported General Haftar really late into the conflict, didn't they? So yeah, they just do that so they could. Oh, America's doing that. We should get involved too. Here, have some neo-Nazis to support. Oh God, wow, that's weird.
And if
I know that's the RT thing though, right? Like anything that causes chaos, yeah.
behind us there is nuclear weapon and the iron will to defend, for example, in the little case of Assad, defend Assad. Assad is principally not because we have so much interest there. That is the question of who rules the world. That is the problem. That's possible war. Only war could decide really who is the boss.
Do you think that's really a possibility?
If United States doesn't want to start a war, United States should recognize openly for all humanity, all mankind, that United States is not anymore unique master. So let recognize that there will be no war. But
this has aged so badly. This is where the realist thing really fucks up as well. Because it's like, yeah, okay, if you're going to defend this guy and say that this is just what big powers do, well, yeah, okay. Well, 2 more countries joining NATO, that's just what big powers do. They just make it very attractive for them to join NATO. Yeah. Works both ways if you're going to apply that perspective.
we understand our position is that we are going to fight up to the end in order to show to everybody that United States is not any more unique master. It's very serious, because we are seriously going to show and to confirm that we are entering in a multipolar world. And the situation in Syria, on Ukraine, and anywhere else, that's only the case to prove that. We don't want that, but we understand that if we will be
If I was like 17 years old, I could say that where Nietzsche said that God was dead and was replaced by the Übermensch, well, the USSR is dead and was replaced by the faux image of a multipolar world with Russia as one of the big superpowers. Their real empire died, so they just have to make a fake one where they just get involved in other conflicts around the world just as a power move. That's kind of sad.
Ready to pay all the price for that, we could not gain.
So Ukraine...
Multi-pontooner. Yes, that's the strategy. More pontoons. How can you be against a world with more pontoons?
Syria are all about proving to America that they're not the boss.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. That they are not unique boss.
Can I ask you a personal question? When you watch the news on Russian television, do you believe what you see?
Absolutely, because...
Really? You're an intelligent man. Surely you can't believe...
because...
When was this done?
Outlandish thing.
2016. No, they've been going at this for a while.
No. Absolutely. Postmodernism teaches us to understand, or sociology. I'm sociologist as well. And what is total fact, according to Dugin? Total fact. The founder of sociology, Emil Durkheim, affirmed that total fact, it is the fact the society believes in.
So if enough people believe it, it'll become true.
No, the truth is the question of belief. And postmodernity shows that every so-called truth is the matter of believing. So we believe in what we do, we believe in what we say, and that is the only way to define the truth. The truth is the matter of belief. And that is not only our position, because when I see Western media, I ask myself how the people could lie in such way. They lie about everything in the world. But After that, I say to myself, stop. That is not lie. It is their truth.
But wait,
they are completely convinced.
Yep, the West, yeah, the Western. Okay, just in case. I feel like I could have made this point in a video, but I didn't. When people do this thing of like the West lies too, okay, yeah, we lied, like the Iraq War, lots of lying happened. Okay, yeah. When people try to equate RT and Russian state media with what we do in the West, it's not comparable. Like even the BBC, which is technically the BBC isn't actually state media, right? You know, that's not what the BBC is. The BBC is state-funded media. But the British government doesn't set the agenda for the BBC. They might choose what to tell the BBC, like in terms of like insider stuff and with political correspondence and all that, but they don't actually say, this is what we want you to report. And with America, it's just they're private companies. Whereas with Russia, the entire like state media agenda is dictated from the Kremlin. Would you say the same for Al Jazeera? I don't know enough about them. Sorry. See, like you're doing it there. They're in each other's back pockets. Though. Okay, I know there's conflict of interest. Yeah, okay. But to compare it to Russian state media where they can just say, you have to broadcast this regardless of whether it's true or false, and they, without question or with great fear, will do it. That's why whenever Russian journalists from the state media have to do like interviews or for studies, or when they let this stuff out, like when they whistleblow and shit like that, it's always anonymous interviewing. It's enormous. I mean, if you want to put it in like a more simplified terms, no other big media outlet in the West, and definitely not state media like the BBC or whatever. I'm pretty sure RT was the only outlet. Russian state media was the only outlet to actually pass off video game coverage, video game footage as news coverage. They were the only ones who did that, right? The only equivalent we had to that in the West was like fucking a couple of Twitter users, maybe. Or like the Bucha massacre, where the Russian state media just threw up a picture of all those bodies lying down in the street with their hands bound, shot in the fucking head. And they just put a watermark over the front of it saying fake, like stamped in red, fake. Like, come on. Anyway.
I work in the Western media. I'm a reporter. I go out on the ground. I report what I see. Nobody tells me from on high.
No.
The
There is no
editorial
such thing. The fact, it's always interpretation. There is no such things as a fact. Wittgenstein has proven that. There is no fact, there's only interpretation. You see because you interpret this or so. Our manner of thinking of any man, of any culture, of any civilization, it deals only with interpretation. You cannot see nothing without interpretation. What you see, it's interpretation.
I see you can argue that philosophically.
It's actually kind of amazing how much influence this guy seems to have over like I don't know how much influence Western conservatives have taken from this guy, but it seems like there's a lot of overlap.
It is not
if somebody flies an airplane and drops a bomb on a building in Aleppo, somebody's dropped that bomb.
Who has fixed that? Whose airplane is it? What is the bomb? What is the quarter the bomb is falling on? What are the people?
Yeah.
And there begins our interpretation, because it is the war.
But
it is very difficult to go in it to see and to prove. For you, any bomb falling is a Russian bomb. Any killed by Russian bomb should be an innocent civilian, and any harm that is done in the Aleppo or...
I'm pretty sure they don't do that though. Like, yeah, he has to, like, he's basically lying to justify lying. It was really Schrodinger's bomb.
In the Syria is absolutely from the beginning.
But the problem is he knows who he's talking to. He knows he's talking to a Western audience who think that their media is like going to say that everything Russia does is bad and everything. He knows exactly who he's talking to when he says this shit.
You have no idea that could be different, because you are real, normal, Western men, Western reporter, Western journalists. It is your truth to see, to say, to presume, to be completely convinced the Russians are evil. So that they want
that's where you're wrong. I
spent
spent many years studying Russian and learning to love Russia and all things Russian.
But nevertheless, that's our bombs that destroy innocent civilians everywhere.
I'm not saying they all are, but sometimes they are, right?
Never. Never. No. No. Only American and American marionettes of ISIS and the other Jabhat al-Nusra bombs are killing innocent civilians.
Because those are the only ones that are killing.
That's our interpretation, our vision.
But you can't really believe.
That's our interpretation. Oh God, this guy. Yeah, I actually do find this guy interesting because he's consistent. Everything's fake, so we're all just making it up anyway. Multipolarity soy. I'm Dugin out. Soy multipolarity, I'm Dugin out over here. Nah, that wasn't us, a chemical weapon. Nah, it was someone else. That's my interpretation. What are you gonna do, soy? I'm Dugin out.
That. I mean, I don't believe it. I don't believe that that Russia is responsible for all the destruction. Neither do I believe it's responsible for none of the destruction. I mean, it's just not credible.
No, but when we see Western media, we see when, for example, someone is a little bit on the other, try to say that maybe not in any case there.
So how does this guy know that his interpretation? Well, that's what you would ask him, right? It's all like, okay, well, if something happens and two people have different interpretations of what happened, how do you resolve that tension, right? And Dugin would say you can't. You have to let both interpretations exist. Well, if that's the case, then if that's his problem, though. So if Russia believes that they have a right to Ukraine and to have neutrality on their border in Europe, well, okay, that's their truth. What if Western truth is that we need to get as many countries into NATO as possible and defend Ukraine? You have to respect that. You have to respect that truth as much as you're saying we should respect yours. Right? If your truth is that your guys didn't bomb civilians in Aleppo, well, what if our truth is that yes, you did, and we're going to try you for war crimes? I have to respect both truths, and then the answer to that is the where you get the fascism from, which is the stronger one wins. It's a might makes right. He's not mentioning it, but the logical conclusion for that is the logical conclusion to what he's saying is that might will make right. This is really ironically, is this not kind of the same moral stance that Vosh took when he was arguing with Rem? Do you remember that? Like, I can't prove, like, the idea is that, like, the reason the Holocaust, like, narrative is true is because we basically, like, terrorize people who don't believe it. Like, society just kind of shuns people who don't believe it. That, like, you can't get to the very bottom. Say, for example, with slavery, right? It wasn't about intellectually proving why owning slaves was wrong, or morally arguing or coming up with the right combination of words to properly ground the moral reality that slavery is wrong. No, it was about you killed the people who disagreed. So but the point is that you can apply this guy's perspective both ways, right? If Russia deserves respect, like if the Russian state deserves respect for their perspective and their actions, well then, so do the people who fight against them. Kind of like the dogmatism argument? Not really, no. That's a bit different. I know what you're saying, yeah, but it's not quite. It's more about like the argument is like relativism. It's postmodern relativism. Is that there's no strict way of proving one thing is more correct than the other. So what you're saying is Vosh was right? I don't actually believe that, no. I think there is some kind of empirical truth. And there are methods of finding that truth that are more reliable than others. For example, social sciences have problems. They have replication issues and all that. But I think they're more reliable than just someone making shit up, right? The same way that I trust a peer-reviewed study on myocarditis more than I trust someone who just trolled through the VAERS reports to make up their own conclusion, right? Only problem with me is I'm not that well read in philosophy, so I can't really justify why I think that. I'm very honest about that. I can't justify why I believe that's the case. I don't have a theory of truth. I don't know what truth is. But I don't really, in this case, I don't really need to, because the point is we don't actually need to prove. The point is that his worldview, like, is impenetrable. There's no way, there's no amount of empirical evidence that could convince Dugin, say, for example, that the bombings in Aleppo by Russia killed civilians. There's no way you can get that into his it's incompatible with his worldview, because it's against Russian truth, right? It's against his perspective of truth. What we can do to people who think like him is play by their own rules, though. What we can do is to just, well, okay, it's your truth that you're allowed to invade Ukraine, that you're justified in doing that. It's our truth that we're justified in defending Ukraine. Sorry. Like, you made the rules here, right? It's our truth that European nations should be joining NATO. It's our truth that the sanctions are justified. It just keeps going, right? And he's the one arguing for a mutual respect of truths. But the problem is, what if one truth can only exist at the expense of another? And then I'm actually really fascinated by this now. This was much more productive than I thought it would be.
Russian bombers that destroy the civilians, so it is cut. So maybe personally,
it's my truth that I did your mom. Oh, in the chat, banger. Oh,
there are the people who are with broader sense of understanding reality. But if we take the Western media, we see that normal reportage, normal observation.
Putin hates this one simple trick. Is that going to be the VOD for this segment? Putin hates this one simple trick. That's funny.
What is going on in Syria is completely biased by these preconceived ideas.
And I understand that, and I recognise that. But isn't it true that Russian television has seen that there is implicit bias in how people report where they are, and
this is why that guy from earlier, the guy from the other interview, was saying that Russia never went through like a proper I mean, they went through an enlightenment, but I guess they didn't really go through like a proper embracing of like secular reasoning, right? That's what the guy was saying. Even though I don't think that's true, but to an extent, I suppose in some ways they didn't, because they went from the czars to like Marxist Leninism to where they are now, you know? So he's not wrong. Dugin's not wrong when he says that like the Russian state is kind of like predisposed to basically design its own reality. I'm really interested in this topic now. But I think so far, I'll have to think about it more, but I think the problem is like, I know the temptation is to be like, they say, well, how can you prove that Russians that Russians bombed civilians in Syria or in Aleppo? And then your temptation is just to be like, mate, come on. Like, mate, come on. You've seen the reports, you've seen the investigations, you've seen that, but they don't think like that. Like, that doesn't work. I think a much easier response to be is, oh, okay, that is your truth. Well, then you just can't complain then when Western truth is to contain Russia within NATO, right? You just can't complain when Western truth dictates defending Ukraine. Wow, that's good. The problem is, though, is that, and I think this is maybe one of the arguments I've got that maybe justifies empirical reality and all that, like whatever, like rationality over what he thinks, is that you notice that like it's the same way that religion kind of fails a little bit as well. Is that this guy and people like Haas and Jackson Hinkle will always try to appeal to empiricism, right? They'll always try to appeal to the Western method. So they will cite studies. They will cite testimonies from, say, like the Euromaidan, or they'll cite like evidence of this, this, and this. But like it's always like incomplete or full of conjecture and all that. But the point is that they're trying to use Western methods, whereas we don't have to try to use theirs. The same way that religious people, I don't know if you notice this, will always try to appeal to science. That's a very common thing now. Like creationists will try to appeal to science. You can find like fucking pages long of creationists like trying to justify why radioactive decay actually doesn't tell us how old rocks are and shit like that. Yeah, they'll try that. Which, as one teacher in my university told me, was that like when they do that, they're basically proving the existence of secularization. That's secularization in action when they do that. So with abortion, they should really appeal to their God and all that, because that's a much more airtight way of doing it, but they don't. They appeal to life begins at conception. And that gives people like me the opportunity to say, well, why does life begin at conception? Is it because it's a unique DNA strand or a unique genetic code? Because that exists after death. Why not make it consciousness? For example, we end death at consciousness. Why not start life? And then that as soon as they're on your turf, they're kind of fucked, right? But that's what they tried to do. That's why I think people like Lauren Southern kind of failed at what she was trying to do back in old 2016, 17, 18. Because she could have just been, appealed completely to the emotional thing of our ancestral homeland and one rape by a brown person, migrant against a white person in Europe is too many, therefore. But no, she tried to justify it on liberal terms. She tried to appeal to laws. She tried to appeal to economics, but you can't do any of that, right? Laws? Yeah. I'll say it. International laws are based, though. Most, at least the ones that I've read and have like cited, they're pretty fucking. They're all they all seem well justified, Especially, well, the refugee ones definitely, even though no one fucking follows them. But yeah, laws.
They've taken it and multiplied.
Interview Dugin and ask him if he's a fucking liberal. Okay.
We could speak on two levels.
Yeah.
If you affirm that the West says the truth and Russia says lie, I would respond, Russia says truth,
right,
that this truth is absolute truth, and the West says lie.
Okay, so we're playing a chess game. If I say to you, Western journalists are often biased and mistaken, but they try to tell the truth, whereas Russian TV has gone through the other side.
No.
No, he's prepared. He's got the talking points. This guy has not watched enough Loner Box 8 years in the future. 6 years in the future, sorry. Yeah, this guy's he's not prepared. This doesn't work unless you. I mean, it does work. Like, yeah, it works to a Western audience because everyone knows, right? Everyone knows that Russian state media is fucking completely incomparable to. Actually, they don't. Sorry, people are stupid. Whatever.
Say that,
and they're not even trying to tell the truth.
If you say that Western,
is this Nicholas II? Am I? Do I actually have that kind of? It is, isn't it? The guy who kind of fucked the Russian army and then paid for it by losing his head. All right. Well, he was shot, wasn't he? He was shot. He wasn't decapitated. He was shot. He looks very he looks very youthful. It's Nick Fuentes.
is sometimes biased, sometimes not. I would say Russian TV is sometimes biased, sometimes not. If you say we are sometimes not biased, but you are always biased, I would say exactly. You are sometimes biased, we are sometimes not biased.
Exactly.
We're just like, it's always equal, yeah. Just for some reason, yeah. That's also part of the Russian truth, yeah. It works though, doesn't it? How many fucking times have you heard like a leftist or like whatever, or like a conservative defender of Russia? Like, I guess they're coming from all sides now. How many times have you heard someone say like, well, I know RT is bad, but come on. Have you read the New York Times? Like, mate, you're Dugin out. Soy, you are Dugin out. Multipolarity soy, Dugin, you're cucking Dugin out. I am sometimes based, you are sometimes based. Russia does some cringe, you do some cringe. That doesn't matter, that doesn't matter. Fucking Dugin moment, soy, Dugin out. He does have a nice outfit, yeah. And he's got a good look going on. He looks smarter than he is. Or, no, fuck it, I'm not gonna do that. He's not dumb. He's not dumb at all. It's just that, like, this is the only way you can get away with what he's... You notice he has not appealed... This is what the fuck-ups will do, though. Dipshits like fucking Haz and Dinkel and whatever else, they will try to appeal to Western standards of, like, truth, right? They will try to appeal to empiricism and rationality, and that's why they look stupid. This guy, however, oh yeah... This guy, he's got it. He has not once tried to make a rational argument. You notice that? He hasn't done that. Do I mean Jackson Tinkle? No, I mean Giblet Shingles. Not to be confused with Juggernaut Wrinkle Dinkle. Binkle. But you notice that they haven't actually learned like the key lesson from him.
Absolutely, and that is multipolarity. Right. Nobody has monopoly on the truth. The truth is relative. I could accept that, but only if you accept that. If you say our truth is absolute, I would respond immediately. Our truth is absolute. I don't believe that, and you don't believe it. Or maybe you believe. If you believe that your truth is absolute, you are normal Western man. But normal
I
Western...
don't believe anyone's truth is absolute.
Okay, we could agree on that at least.
Kind of got a concession. Hey, he's Dugin out. Soy. That was actually really valuable. I feel like I understand a little bit more, like, not only where, like, why it works so effectively, but also, like, I don't think they have a way around that argument, though, right? They don't have a way around the argument that if they want to say that it's all relative, then they just can't complain at anything the West does, because that's our truth. Soy, sphere of influence, soy. I'm duking out the sphere of influence.